For 40 years, he was a ghost. He broke into homes across California, tied up his victims, and vanished without a trace. Police had his DNA. They had a profile. What they didn't have was a name. Then in 2018, a genealogy website normally used to trace family trees cracked open one of the most notorious cold cases in American history, and led investigators straight to a retired police officer living quietly 2 miles from where his first attack happened. This is the story of the Golden State Killer. Between 1974 and 1986, a masked man terrorized California. He's linked to at least 13 murders, over 50 rapes, and more than 100 burglaries. At first, police didn't even realize it was one man. His crimes were spread across different counties, so separate departments investigated what looked like unrelated cases for years. He went by different names, the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker, because nobody had connected the dots yet. His method was terrifyingly consistent. He'd stalk a home for weeks, break in through an unlocked window, wake his victims at gunpoint, and tie them up with cords he brought himself. He'd separate couples into different rooms, threatening to kill one if the other made a sound. Sometimes he'd stop mid-crime to eat food from their kitchen. And sometimes, he'd call victims' homes years later just to remind them he was still out there. He targeted quiet, middle-class suburbs, places where people never thought to lock every window. That's part of what made him so effective and so terrifying. For years, an invisible man changed the way thousands of families lived inside their own homes. By the late 1980s, the attacks stopped as suddenly as they began. Nobody knew why. Had he died? Gone to prison for something else? As DNA science advanced through the 1990s and 2000s, investigators confirmed many of the crimes were committed by the same man. They built a full genetic profile and ran it against every database available. Nothing matched. He'd never been arrested for anything serious enough to have his DNA on file. The case went cold for decades. Task forces formed and disbanded. Detectives retired without ever learning his name. A true crime writer named Michelle McNamara became obsessed with the case, and even coined the name Golden State Killer. Tragically, she died in 2016, just 2 years before the case was finally solved, never getting to see the answer she spent years chasing. The break didn't come from a confession or a witness. It came from a genealogy website. By the mid-2010s, millions of people were sending their DNA to sites like linktoancestry.com to learn about their family history. Some uploaded that data to smaller platforms like GEDmatch, which let users search for relatives across multiple databases. In 2017, investigators secretly uploaded the killer's crime scene DNA to GEDmatch, disguised as a normal genealogy submission. It didn't match him directly. He'd never taken a DNA test, but it matched distant cousins whose DNA overlapped with his. From there, a genetic genealogist built out a massive family tree, working backward to find where those bloodlines intersected. Combined with old-school detective work, matching ages, locations, and family history to the crime timeline, the list of suspects narrowed from thousands down to one name, Joseph James DeAngelo. DeAngelo wasn't a drifter. He was a former police officer, fired in the 1970s for shoplifting. For decades, he lived an ordinary life in Citrus Heights, a quiet suburb near Sacramento, working as a truck mechanic, going to church, tending his garden. Neighbors just thought he was a grumpy old man. To confirm the DNA match without tipping him off, investigators secretly collected DNA from something he'd thrown away and from his car door handle. It was a perfect match. On April 24, 2018, police arrested DeAngelo outside his home. He didn't resist. For the first time in over 40 years, the Golden State Killer finally had a name. In 2020, at age 74, DeAngelo pleaded guilty to 13 counts of murder and dozens of related charges, avoiding the death penalty as part of the deal. At sentencing, survivors and families finally got to speak directly to the man who'd haunted their lives for decades. He was sentenced to multiple life terms without parole. He will die in prison. For many survivors, it was the first time in 40 years they felt safe saying his name out loud. And the case changed criminal investigation forever. Genetic genealogy is now used worldwide to crack cold cases that were decades old, though it's also raised real questions about DNA privacy. The Golden State Killer case stands out for 2 reasons. The scale of what one man got away with for so long, and how it was finally solved, not through decades of detective work alone, but through a tool nobody saw coming, a genealogy website built to help people find long-lost relatives. In the end, it wasn't fear that caught him. It was a distant cousin's curiosity about their family tree. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime cases solved after decades of silence.